The much-loved character was diagnosed with prostate cancer earlier this year and spiraled into destructive behaviour as he struggled to come to terms with the life-altering news. For Cain, this meant stealing cars alongside Sarah Sugden and lashing out at anyone who so much as looked his way. Sarah and Liam Kavanagh, the only two people initially aware of his diagnosis, encouraged him to confide in Moira Dingle, but he was determined to keep it from her. However, everything shifted when Cain realised his actions were affecting Sarah's marriage to Jacob Gallagher. After speaking with Liam, he finally chose to tell Moira the truth. The episode where Cain revealed both his illness and the situation at Butler's farm was deeply emotional. Since then, he has moved into wishing well with the boys, yet he still struggles with his family urging him to open up. It's not that Cain doesn't appreciate their concern, but expressing his feelings requires vulnerability, something he finds extremely difficult. His situation worsens in the coming week when he attends a support group for men with prostate cancer. Cain ends up leaving early after hearing someone discuss relationship struggles after diagnosis, which intensifies his own fears. When he returns home, Cain discovers that Sam Dingle has forgotten about an important meeting regarding farm equipment. Overwhelmed, Cain lashes out in anger before storming off. Charity Dingle follows him back and finds him drinking. She urges him to take care of himself, but he reacts angrily again, hurling a whiskey bottle across the room and smashing Zach's tankard. There is a small breakthrough when Cain admits to Charity that he has been trying to hold Moira's life together during her time in prison, but feels like he's failing. Looking for an escape, Cain begins reminiscing about his past with Charity and makes a move on her. Thankfully, Charity recognizes his distress and understands what he is doing. Trying to flirt with his own cousin clearly shows that Cain is not coping with the turmoil in his mind. The actor who plays Cain describes him as a man on the brink. He explains that involving his granddaughter in risky behaviour, especially with so much at stake for her, highlights just how desperate Cain has become. He adds that the illness has pushed Cain to his limits, as he is juggling the pressure of saving the farm, bringing Moira home from prison, reuniting the family, and dealing with his cancer all at once. Ultimately, Cain is portrayed as a man at breaking point, making choices he knows are wrong as everything around him begins to unravel. Kim's unexpected new partner against Graham in Emmerdale is set to cause major drama. Kim is our favourite Emmerdale powerhouse, and it's hard not to feel protective seeing her in such a fragile position. If Joe Tate believes he can take her place, he's got another thing coming. While Joe isn't the one responsible for her distress, Graham Foster certainly is, leaving viewers as confused as Kim herself. One moment he appears to be the good guy, supporting Cain Dingle with his farming troubles, and the next he's interfering in Rona Goskirk's marriage and manipulating Kim into sleeping with him. His return to the village left Kim shaken, especially since she had believed he was dead for 6 years. Since coming back, he has been working behind the scenes to damage Kim's reputation in Joe's eyes, urging him to distance himself from her. Kim has been trying to suppress her lingering feelings for her former partner, maintaining a cold exterior while confessing to Lydia Dingle that something still remains between them. After Graham gave Rona an ultimatum that didn't go his way, he turned to Kim instead, drawing her into his bed. The following day, he dismissed her completely, leaving Kim feeling hurt and unsettled. Embarrassed, she told Lydia she would never allow him close again, yet he continues to stay under her roof. Feeling betrayed, Kim begins plotting new ways to safeguard herself and forms an unexpected alliance by hiring Ross Barton as her director of operations, essentially a high-level bodyguard. Gradually, she intends to build a force to stand against Graham. Graham reacts negatively to this development, exactly as Kim anticipated. Aware of Ross and Dawn's past, he immediately confronts Ross and attempts to intimidate him. However, Ross refuses to be threatened and instead mocks Graham's efforts, even boasting about his new role as Kim's added protection. Could this mean Graham has finally met someone who can challenge him? Rona, thankful as longing Graham rescues Dylan in Emmerdale, and could romance be next? The character has gone to great lengths to reassure Marlon Dingle that he is the only one she wants, but it's beginning to seem like she might be trying to convince herself as much as him. Not long ago, Graham asked Rona to meet him so they could talk about where they stand. He made it clear that if she didn't show up, he would take it as a sign to stay away from her for good. Rona fully intended to meet him, but her plans were interrupted when Ivy hurt herself at nursery. By the time Rona arrived at the bridge, Graham had already left, and instead turned his attention to Kim Tate. Even though Rona later discovered this and told him exactly what she thought, the spark between them clearly hasn't faded. In the latest episode, Rona and her family were left in a panic after Dylan Penders went missing. The young man had fled the village after sending a letter to the police claiming responsibility for Ray Walters' death. Dylan believed that Beowulf and Paddy Kirk were suffering because of him and thought confessing would somehow set them free from trouble. Rona, along with Marlon, April Windsor and Aaron Dingle, set out to find Dylan and stop the letter from reaching the authorities before it was too late. Realizing they needed urgent help, Rona decided there was only one person who could step in. During a secret meeting by the river, she asked Graham to track down Dylan and retrieve the letter. Despite having very little time, Graham recognized how desperate she was and agreed to help. He eventually located Dylan and later that evening met Rona outside the pub with the letter in hand. She was extremely relieved, and it was clear from their interaction that their feelings for each other hadn't disappeared. Inside the pub, as Rona tried once again to push thoughts of Graham aside, Joe Tate noticed the tension between them. He suggested to Graham that perhaps his reason for staying in the village had changed. Graham brushed off the comment, even as he watched Rona share a kiss with Marlon. The question now remains, how long can they ignore what's really between them? Emmerdale confirms who rescues Dylan, and it may change everything for Rona. Emmerdale saw Graham Foster step in to save Dylan Penders tonight, after the teenager attempted to take responsibility for Ray Walters' death. While Dylan was kept from getting into deeper trouble, Graham's involvement could create complications for Rona Goskirk. In the previous episode, Dylan made the bold decision to confess to Ray's murder in order to protect Paddy Dingle and Beowulf. He sent a letter to the police admitting guilt before running away from the village. During tonight's installment, Dylan's family desperately searched for him following his sudden disappearance. They worried that if he failed to appear at the police station, he would violate his bail conditions and face an arrest warrant. April Windsor warned the concerned group that Dylan knew how to stay hidden and would be far away if he didn't want to be found. A desperate Rona secretly turned to Graham for help in locating Dylan, calling him her only hope. Although Graham initially agreed that finding Dylan would be difficult, he changed his mind after hearing about the confession letter and decided to take action. Later on, Rona was taken aback when Graham returned with Dylan, having quickly tracked him down and brought him home. Though relieved, Dylan angrily pointed out that his letter would still lead to his arrest. Graham reassured him that the confession would be back in his possession before the day ended, promising to fix the situation. At the same time, Aaron Dingle was unhappy that Rona had contacted her former partner, but she urged him to keep it from Marlon for obvious reasons. As the family celebrated Dylan's safe return, Rona anxiously waited for news about the letter. Just as she began to lose hope, Graham arrived once again, holding the confession as he had promised. He revealed that he had bribed someone at the postal sorting office to retrieve it and assured Rona that there would be no consequences for him. The two shared a meaningful moment before Rona rejoined the family, claiming she had recovered the letter herself. However, their interaction did not go unnoticed, as Joe Tate observed the exchange and later questioned Graham about his true feelings. With tensions rising, the question remains whether Graham is trying to win Rona back, and how Marlon will react if he discovers what really happened. Emmerdale airs on weekday evenings at 8 p.m. on ITV1 and is also available to stream on ITVX.